Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about the latest album to be released by Kendrick Lamar, entitled Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I believe the man needs no introduction. The Compton native returns after years of silence with his latest and also final album to be released under the Top Dog Entertainment label, TDE. I thoroughly enjoyed his previous release, Damn. This was back in 2017, and it's been a long time since then. We haven't heard much from Kendrick, and many have wondered how much longer it would be until we'd have new music be released by him. The album was formally announced back in April of 2022 when Kendrick responded to a tweet claiming that he was, quote, officially retired. It was an unexpected and pleasant surprise. I remember being caught off guard when I saw it on my own timeline and wondering what it was all about. I think this approach to the announcement for the album set the tone for the music well, as the music does is timely and it touches on a lot of hot topics that we hear a lot about nowadays. It's diverse, it's raw, and it is a lot to take in. But if you are patient with the music, you just might find rewards in different forms. The album is a total of 18 tracks, sitting just over a runtime of about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to give my highlights, talk about themes and production types throughout the entire album, starting with the first song entitled United in Grief. We've got a beautiful and interesting instrumental for this song. It's hectic, it's frantic, and it's also captivating. The instrumental consists of unique stems that are mixed interchangeably throughout the song. At the very intro, we hear a beautiful a cappella vocal section, which leads the listener into a staccato piano accompaniment that is enveloping Kendrick's vocals. His flow is a staccato triplet pattern, which does accentuate the minimal background music. Some drums gradually enter the mix and grow into an explosion about 2 minutes of the way in. Soon the piano re-enters the mix and joins these frantic drums, and it creates a beautiful fusion of grace and high energy. We can also hear a smooth synth bass line that sneaks into certain sections, and by the end of the song, high-pitched synth drones join the mix, and eventually everything but the piano fades out. Thematically, Kendrick reflects on his own career and the different ways that he's coped with his pain and struggles throughout the years, from using things like therapy, sex, money, and other performative actions. He's drowned his sorrows out in multiple ways, but nothing has really helped. There's many quotable lines, but the most impactful ones to me appear towards the end of the song. Poverty was the case, but the money wiping the tears away. Track number 2 is entitled N95, a reference to the masks that people began to wear throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. I love how Kendrick's voice sounds on this track. He explores multiple inflection and cadence types, and his vocal delivery fluctuates in nature and character throughout the song. The instrumental is a wonderful banger featuring crispy synth strings raining over the programmed 808 drums. Thematically, the song can be interpreted in many different ways, but I think at its core, it's all about peeling back the veil of the facades that people use to hide their true selves. Kendrick alludes to this all over the song, with the entire first verse asking the listener to remove all signs of clout, fame, and money. And at the end of this asks, take all that designer bullshit off and what do you have? The response to this question comes in the hook, bitch, you ugly as fuck. In other words, K. Dot is calling out these futile measures that people take to conceal their true natures, maybe their true intentions, and implores the listener to reflect on the absurdity of such efforts. Track number 3 is entitled Worldwide Steppers. This is a pulsing instrumental. The mix is noisy, featuring a big instrument that sits in the center, but I can't identify what it is. A piano sparkles over this particular sound and throughout the song, almost like some parsley being sprinkled over the mix. About 2/3 of the way in, the instrumental switches up to like an old school hip hop type sound, but it's brief, and then it returns to the regular production type. I enjoy the sample that we hear in the song. It's from a viral video of a guy that crashes a random cookout and he's making himself a meal as if he were invited, and he yells out, "Hey yo, what the fuck?" when he realized there's no cheese there, and he's like, "How do you make a burger with no cheese?" Anyway, lyrically, K. Dot reflects on his hermit status over the past couple of years. After dropping his last album, he stayed out of the limelight and focused on his family. He reflects on his desire to do good, but he does take the time to recognize that he's not a perfect person. Each verse touches on different aspects of his life and how he's felt guilty for different things. He reflects on the reality that despite our intentions, our actions can always end up harming someone, even if we're not aware of such potential implications. Track number 4 is entitled Die Hard, featuring Blast and Amanda Reifer. We've got beautiful vocal performances on this smooth R&B song. The instrumental features relaxed programmed drums. It's a mix of crisp claps, cowbells, subtle rides and other overheads, and a fat kick drum. Thematically, K. Dot reflects on an important and intimate relationship and expresses his fears surrounding that bond. Fear that the relationship may fail, fear that it may become too much, and also the fear of making one too many mistakes. To me, the most poignant lines appear during the first verse. My truth too complicated now. Can I open up? Is it safe or not? I'm afraid a little. You relate or not? Have faith a little. I might take my time. Ain't no saving face this time. Track number 5 is entitled Father Time, featuring Sampha. We've got smooth boom bap production here, featuring solid drums, violins, and piano samples. I can also make out a deep, upright bass or a similar sound to that in the background, which I think is the cherry on top for the instrumental. Laid over this foundation are beautiful vocal performances and samples that help switch up the flavor for the album here. And Sampha's work on the hook is strong and makes for a more memorable song overall. Kendrick ruminates on fatherhood and the role that his own father played in his life. He tackles the stereotypical uber-masculine father figure that reinforces certain behaviors while staunchly rejecting others. In Kendrick's words, daddy issues, fuck everybody, go get your money, son. Protect yourself, trust nobody, only your mama and them. This made my relationship seem cloudy, never attached to none. So if you took likings around me, I might reject the love. He reflects on how this type of fatherhood affected him and the relationships he'd grow to have in his adulthood. He also reflects on his own role as a father and the new generation of fathers and encourages others to break generational curses. Overall, it's a very poignant piece. Track number 6 is entitled Rich, Interlude. It's a simple interlude consisting of lively piano accompaniment and Kodak Black's vocals. It's not the first song of the album that he appears on, and it's also not the last. Personally, I'm curious as to why Kendrick included a rapper with an extensive criminal history, namely his history of sexual assault and misconduct. Kendrick, being the rapper and person that he is, he tries to actively take a moral sort of high ground, call things into question, and I don't know. I just don't understand. But I can't speak for Kendrick. I think that his inclusion, Kodak's inclusion on the album, seems to be a bit in poor taste. But I suppose that the argument can be made that K. Dot is looking to advocate for the idea of rehabilitation and also forgiveness in giving Kodak a space to speak on his personal background and upbringing, which he does do on the song. But I personally don't agree with the execution of that idea. Kodak reflects on his past and contrasts that with his present, highlighted by one line on the song, a bunch of lost souls in survival mode. It wasn't no way for us unless we found our own. Track number 7, entitled Rich Spirit. The instrumental is smooth like butter, and it feels like a river with a warm and slow current. I love the muffled synth that's playing the bass line, and it's hiding underneath the warmth of a beautifully soft synth pad. The drums sit in a massive space, and there's vocal samples and chops that are sprinkled into the mix to keep everything interesting. Kendrick's vocals fit well in the mix, as the instrumental gives his pitch and sound room to be heard clearly. And on that note, I do love his delivery on the song. It's full of character and attitude. K. Dot takes the time to describe his attitude, personality. As a celebrity, of course, it is inevitable that he will receive criticism of all kinds from all sorts of people. He describes how his spirit helps protect him from such criticism and keeps him strong in his beliefs. Track number 8 is entitled We Cry Together. It's a discordant song in many senses of the word. The piano chords that fill the background are full of dissonant tones that have a wild taste to them. The song plays out like an argument between a couple, and by the end of the song it does transform into something else. The male and female parties are arguing back and forth in a very rhythmic manner. It's almost like they're rapping in a Hamilton Broadway type of way. It's It's very clear that Kendrick has tapped into the pulse of current discourse of gender relations, perhaps specifically within the black community, but I do think the general concept of the song can be applied to other racial and ethnic demographics. There's not much that I can quote here, but if you haven't heard this song, it's definitely quite the experience that you just have to listen to for yourself. Track number 9 is entitled Purple Hearts, featuring Summer Walker and Ghostface Killah. It's a smooth R&B tune. The drums are rich and blend into the mix well. The background accompaniment consists of wavy synths and pads. The vocal features help the song stand out, and it's an interesting sort of chemistry here, although I'm not sure how I feel about the blend of vocal styles. I don't know if it's effective, but it is up to the listener. Thematically, the song feels like it could be a response to the previous track. Each artist's verse makes reference to themes of love, struggles, and spirituality. The hook drives the point home as they sing, "Shut the fuck up when you hear love talking. If God be the source, then I am the plug talking." Track number 10 is entitled Count Me Out. It's a quiet song featuring a quiet guitar accompaniment and subtle flutes that set up the intro at the beginning. There's a beautiful choir section that drapes over the music, creating a beautiful energy. Once the beat comes in, it's a thick kick drum anchoring those stuttering hi-hats and short, crispy snares. The song gets a lot louder here as well. The bass line that sits in the mix is crunchy, and it buzzes sometimes, and it sounds really good. On this song, it feels like Kendrick is speaking to a person or maybe people that were once important to him. Kendrick reflects on his own growth proudly as he explains, "This time around, I trust myself. Please everybody else but myself. All else fails, I was myself. Outdone fear, outdone myself. This year you better won yourself." By the end of the song, Kendrick comes to terms with his current feelings regarding the fake people in his life, and he explains, "Something's up, must confess. Spoke my truth, paid my debt. Can't you see I'm a wreck? Let me loose, I digress. This is me and I'm blessed." Sometimes it is best to let dead weight go and just move forward to better things. Track number 11 is entitled Crown. It's a more pensive and reflective tone on the song. The instrumental is simple, consisting of somber piano accompaniment and Kendrick singing. The song is full of crown imagery, evoking a sense of responsibility and maturity. My favorite lines sum it up during the bridge. "Heavy is the crown that chose to wear the crown. To whom is given, much is required now." This seems to be a biblical reference in Luke chapter 12, verse 48. Depending on the version of the Bible you're looking at, it reads something like, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked." Kendrick, of course, is aware that he's regarded as a leader and figurehead, particularly for the black community. He reflects on this and makes it clear to the listener that he is only human. Throughout the song, he continuously reminds the listener that you can't please everybody. All we can do is our very best. Track number 12 is entitled Silent Hill, featuring Kodak Black. The instrumental to the song is beautiful, consisting of a crisp 808 layered approach to the drums, with fun chirpy sounds blended in there. A soft type of keyboard that feels dreamlike, and eventually violins enter the mix as well. On this mellow tune, Kendrick comments on how he chooses to push negativity out of his life. On the hook, he makes it clear, "Pushing the snakes, I'm pushing the fakes, I'm pushing them all off me like hood." Track number 13 is entitled Savior Interlude. It's a beautiful instrumental consisting of a gorgeous string accompaniment. Just imagine Baby Keem rapping along with an orchestra. He flawlessly switches from one flow to another throughout the song, and he speaks on his character, his past, and where he stands today. It's a moving piece and a great segue to the following song, which is track number 14, entitled Savior, featuring Baby Keem and Sam Dew. The intro grounds the listener well as Kendrick raps over a piano accompaniment and gets the listener thinking about where we stand in the world, and comments on how people look up to celebrities and figureheads like these as savior figures. The beat on the instrumental bumps, featuring lively kicks and snares that are filled with movement. In the background, we can hear a beautiful choral accompaniment that shrinks and expands from one section to the next. The vocal chemistry is strong here and it creates a beautiful blend. Kendrick comments on several talking points of recent years, hot topics that are unfolding, and we're still in the middle of them, the pandemic being one of them. Kendrick points out to how we tend to look to prominent figures for all the answers. The fact of the matter is that everyone is only human. As Kendrick points out in the third verse, the cat is out of the bag. I am not your savior. Track number 15 is entitled Auntie, Diaries. The instrumental here is beautiful and calm, featuring minimal percussive elements, mainly a steady kick drum. Surrounding this are fluffy pads, blippy synth arpeggios, and Kendrick's calm vocal delivery. Thematically, Kendrick speaks on a trans family member of his and what it was like for him to grow up with a trans family member. He speaks on his experiences with homophobia and how he would try to understand a concept that he had no personal experience with, but was just observing it in a family member. Kendrick challenges what it means to be an ally, and he does comment on the usage of slurs. There are many that believe words are nothing more than sounds, but others would challenge this and claim that words do carry power. Kendrick puts all of this into question and the morality surrounding slurs. He concludes later in the song when he quotes a cousin of his, "Ain't no room for contradiction. To truly understand love, switch position." In other words, he's explaining that all slurs must be rejected equally. One cannot pick and choose, no matter who you are. Personally, for me, it's interesting that Kendrick uses the F slur repeatedly throughout the song, and I do have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I understand that as a cis and straight man, he doesn't have any right to use the word. But as a writer, it does make for a raw and thought-provoking approach to this type of commentary on allyship and the power of language as a whole. The song, after a lot of thinking about this for a lot, I've concluded that this song is not for the politically correct and well-informed listener, but rather for those who just don't know any better, those who haven't really done the research, those who are just starting to try to understand concepts like these. And it's honestly not meant to sit well with the listener. Track number 16, entitled Mr. Morale, featuring Tana Leone. We've got wild energy on this tune. The instrumental features a synth arp that is constantly moving up and down. The drums are thick, especially that kick, and we've got fun overheads and solid claps on here as well. There's vocal harmonies used in the background that create an unsettling energy, and Tana Leone adds to the energy, providing a solid and brief performance. Kendrick speaks directly to his children on the verses and maybe on the whole song, and he ruminates on different types of trauma and the weight that they can carry. He evokes a sense of healing and takes the time to explain that it's not an easy feat to try to heal. We transition into track 17, which is also related, entitled Mother I Sober, featuring Beth Gibbons. Calm vocals and somber piano chords create the foundation for this song. Kendrick's vocals feel raw, and this makes for a vulnerable and genuine tone. Kendrick speaks on himself and his family, specifically about abuse and sexual trauma that he has struggled to cope with. It's an intense and an emotional song. He touches on how these traumas can be found in families across the Black community, and he does his best to bring attention to this and explains how many cope with these pains. The most poignant lines come during the end, as K-Dot uses language to manifest a metaphorical healing. He raps, "So I set free our children, may good karma keep them with God. So I set free the hearts filled with hatred, keep our bodies sacred. As I set free all you abusers, this is transformation." I think that this song showcases Kendrick's storytelling and lyricism at its finest. It is a very touching, beautiful, and heavy song. We close out with track number 18, entitled Mirror. The instrumental here is also beautiful, consisting of simple pop-type drums that are constantly moving, almost like shuffling, and a string ensemble, and there are synths on here as well. Kendrick describes how strange it can be to have many people looking up to you and looking to you for the answers. Kendrick explains that he's just a man who's just doing his best. He sums it up perfectly towards the end when he says, "Sorry I didn't save the world, my friend. I was too busy building mine again." Overall, I enjoyed this album a lot. Kendrick has had a prolific career, and before its release of this album, I could only wonder where he would go after Damn. After my first listen of this album, I knew that I would need some time for it to grow on me, just so I could understand what it was that I was hearing. And after multiple listens, I now see that this album is a beautiful mess. Kendrick has grown a lot over the years, and this album reflects that growth. It feels like a raw and genuine explanation of where Kendrick finds himself nowadays. It's by no means a perfect album, and I'm not really sure what a perfect album would look like, but this is a very diverse listening experience, and that's why I enjoy the project. It's a reflection of Kendrick Lamar, the man. There are parts that are beautiful, and some of them are ugly, but all of it is real. And I do have the utmost respect for Kendrick as an artist and as a person, and I believe that this is a high note for him to end on with his run with TDE. I'm excited to see where he goes from here. There's no telling if he's going to keep making music or not, but he's got nothing left to prove, and he's undoubtedly left his mark on hip hop and music in general. And those are really all my thoughts. If you've sat here and listened to me talk about Kendrick and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, I really do appreciate that. No one really asked you to sit here and listen to me talk about all this, but if you have, thank you. And if you have music that you are currently listening to and you really want to share with somebody, you can always send that my way. I'll take the time to listen to it. And if you want my feedback on it, just let me know. I'll do my best to provide some sort of cohesive thoughts that make some sort of sense. And with all that being said, I hope that you have a very wonderful day. And just remember to drink water.